abortion in Arizona once again center stage. The state Supreme Court hearing arguments today over whether the 1864 near total ban on abortion should be law. Now, last year, if you'll remember, the Arizona Court of Appeals upheld a 2022 law banning abortions after 15 weeks. The only exception would be to save a mother's life. But the Christian law firm Alliance Defending Freedom is appealing that decision, saying a 159-year-old near total ban on abortion enacted when Arizona was still a territory should also be upheld. The justices asked for clarification at today's hearing, saying that allowing both laws to be on the books would create confusion. Today, we heard from both sides after the hearing.
Many states, like Arizona, are recognizing the humanity of unborn children and giving them a chance at life. But the abortion industry continues to push an extreme ideology on Arizonans and Americans across the country.
We will not be doing abortion prosecutions in Arizona while I'm Attorney General, ever. We have much more important issues to decide and work on in this state.
Now, we do not expect to see a decision anytime soon, and there is a possibility this case could end in a tie. There are 7 members of Arizona Supreme Court, but one, Justice Bill Montgomery, recused himself and was not replaced. I want to bring in former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton and 12 News political insider Bram Resnick, who was at today's hearing. Paul, you heard and saw what unfolded this morning. What do you make of both sides?
It's interesting, Tram, because what so often happens in high-profile cases is the arguments you hear outside of the courtroom are much different than the arguments you hear inside the courtroom. If you're discussing the issue of abortion, you may hear people talk about faith, about morality, about a woman's right to choose, or the fact that this might be a health care issue. But inside the courtroom today, Tram, what you heard instead were, how do we interpret the law? You saw the justices struggling, asking both sides, how do we read these two seemingly inconsistent laws?
Right. And, you know, it's very black and white, it seems like, when it is in court. Bram, you were there this morning at the hearing. I'm wondering, you know, the big argument, the big overarching argument is that how do two laws coexist? You know, you've got one that is the near total ban, okay? The other one is no abortions after 15 weeks. So how can they coexist together?
Well, that's the argument of Alliance Defending Freedom. These two laws can coexist. In fact, it's more of a Trojan horse in that the 1864 law, under their theory, would kind of consume the 15-week ban, and the 15-week ban would only apply to cases where a woman's life was in danger. Would only allow abortion under that case, and then once the 15 weeks ended, that would transition to the 1864 ban when a different set of restrictions are in place. So in fact, if you are a woman, say at 4 weeks pregnant, going to your doctor, seeking an abortion, the doctor, would have to wonder if this were in effect.
Right.
Could I do this? Would I be sent to jail under the 1864 ban? And the answer, apparently, is yes.
Yeah. And see, that's the difficult situation here. I mean, you're putting these doctors in a very, very precarious predicament here. It's like, what do I do? Obey the law. Here, a mother is begging to have an abortion for, you know, whatever reason. So what would a doctor do? What would the woman do?
So in Bram's example, at 4 weeks, if the mother goes to a doctor and seeks an abortion at 4 weeks, today, given the law today, that would be a lawful request, and if the doctor assents to that abortion, it would be a lawful abortion. But if those who oppose abortion are successful, if they convince the Arizona Supreme Court that that law is not how it ought to be, it would be an unlawful procedure unless the mother's life was at risk. At the end of the day, though, Tram, what we may end up seeing is the voters deciding. If this goes to the ballot, and it may in 2024, whatever the outcome from these Arizona Supreme Court justices, the voters may end up deciding.
Okay, real quick before I move on, how about 16 weeks? The mother is now 16 weeks and wants an abortion. Then what happens?
Today, she's not allowed to have that abortion unless there is an immediate risk to her life.
All right, so I wanted to get your bottom line prediction of what's to come, because the justices probably springtime we're looking at the decision. So
we really don't know.
Yes.
This
okay.
could go 3 months, it could go 6 months.
All right. So what do you think will happen?
Based on what I heard in court today and speaking to another U of A law professor who watched this as well, there are 6 justices who are going to make the decision. There are at least 3 who would say reject the 1864 ban being part of the law, perhaps even 4. If it is 3, that's a 3-3 deadlock, and in that case, the 15-week ban will stand.
Okay, Paul, what do
Do
you
I have that right, Paul?
I think that's exactly what the law is. No longer, as you pointed out, Justice Montgomery is not there. There is no tiebreaker vote. So we'll have to see how these justices fall down and whether or not, in fact, the voters will decide at the end of the day.
Okay. But bottom line, if it's a tie, it stands as is.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, we will see. Paul, we thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks
we
for having
appreciate
me.
your time. Bram, I know you've got a lot of work to do for the 5 and 6 on
you
this
at 5 and
case.
6.
Yep. All right, get to it.